Carry on, my wayward son. Give me peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more. Ba-na-na-na. Carrion. Let's talk about it. Leigh, I reviewed it. My views are out there. I'll let you share your opinions on it first, and then we'll see where we fall. This is it's a interesting game where you are the monster, and that's kind of the whole setup for it. It's a horror game where you play as the monster and you eat people and you kill them, and you get bigger and stronger. What do you think of it, Leigh? Where's you're the horror guy. Does this game do anything for you?
It's fine. Don't sing the intro again, please.
Carry on, my wayward son.
That's the reverse horror right there.
Yeah. No, that's straight in your face horror, in your ears horror.
Yeah, this is a bizarre one. This one, it's obviously it's classed as reverse horror, but kind of we've played You're the Monster games before. You know, like elements of Inside maybe, or what was that really old Genesis game, The Ooze, where you you grow you end up getting turned into a slime blob, and you get to ooze your way around the level. It's like a more isometric. But anyway, there's a long lineage of you being the monster and going through this. This is, would you say this is a Metroidvania?
You know, I've heard some people saying that, but I don't feel like there's as much backtracking as there is in a Metroidvania. Like going back to find secrets and stuff like that. So you are like kind of navigating these levels and finding upgrades and stuff that then get you access to different areas of the map, but most of the progression is pretty linear, at least from what I played of it.
Yeah, once you get the hook, which I didn't get, it's very important to find that I was driving myself insane. Whilst you were romping through this game, kind of having a merry old time, I had missed a salient piece of basic information that meant I was stuck in the same place, somehow progressing for about 4 hours. So, I didn't realise you could eat. There's this thing where you kind of, to make yourself grow or shrink, so you can, because different forms you have different powers that you use within the level.
Yeah, so that's a little bit different from a Metroidvania 2, where you're not just linearly unlocking these powers. Each size of the creature has a different arsenal of weapons and abilities, and in order to use like the sticky web thing from the first level monster, you actually have to shrink in size until you're that size, and then if you need to or if you want to, you can go back and grab your biomass, which is what you were running into.
I played it twice. I restarted because I was convinced I missed something. I'm almost certain it doesn't tell you to eat that. I think it's something you just come across, and I hadn't come across it, so I was stuck. But once you do that, you're right, it becomes so incredibly just follow through the corridors. You eventually hit a hub where you have to unlock the doors around your hub. So you can get into these might be a 4 or 6 point hub. And you open all that up, and then you do go, it's not really a backtracky, puzzly type game.
No.
To a great extent.
No, it's not. It's more like, like I said, you just kind of linear go through these levels, and if you run into a roadblock, then you have to, you haven't gotten that ability yet, so you just kind of have to squirm around and find the new upgrade. And then once you do, you just go right back to where you were and continue on the main path. There is some, like, you can technically go back to the other areas, but there isn't a whole lot to do in them, and it gives you like a display next to their door that says like, hey, 100% of this has already been completed, so you don't need to go back in here.
Yeah. I
So,
feel like that might just be there, just in case you miss, because you have to break into containers to get
yeah.
extra powers. I think that's in case you miss those, go back to get them. Otherwise, there's no real need to go back.
No, there isn't like secret upgrades or like health modules or anything like that that increase your power or anything like you usually see in these kinds of Metroidvania games. And then, well, I mean, you do so at the very end you do go back through one of the levels, but that's only in that particular situation, and it very much points you in that direction. So, yeah. Overall, I thought it was pretty good, but it definitely started to get very repetitive with its puzzles. I mean, really, the crux of the puzzles until probably like the last hour and a half maybe, is really just shrink down to get the ability you need, grow back up, shrink down, grow back up. And sometimes you have to do that like multiple times. Like you break through a wooden wall and then you need to grow back up in order to pull out a more, a metal door. And then you have to shrink back down in order to shoot through some grate and flip a switch and then go back and grow back up again. And that ended up being at least the way I ended up playing the game. You could, there's an argument that you can make that sometimes you don't always have to go back and pick up your discarded biomass, but the enemies are pretty tough if you don't play it stealthily, if you don't sneak around and like pick guys off when they have their back turned to you. And there's definitely plenty of opportunities for them to like use their flamethrowers and machine guns and take you out pretty quickly. So you kind of want to be as powerful as you can be most of the time. That's also when you have your more powerful attack abilities, like you can grow a bunch of spikes and then kind of fling yourself around and stab a bunch of people.
Shield yourself up and stuff.
Yeah, there's the shield, and then there's what ended up being probably the most powerful thing was the tentacle they all kind of burst out of you and they grab onto a whole bunch of stuff, and then you just can kind of flip around and throw everything around. That ended up being probably the most powerful ability that I found anyway.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I think it controls well. Like you feel good sliding through the vent shafts and corridors and stuff like that. And
I think to a point it does. It's fine when you're a certain mass, but once you get to about the fourth mass, because you're just a blob, you're just kind of a mass of stuff.
Yeah.
But once you start getting super big and super long, then you're led by a head. But your head is how you sometimes travel is not always at the front of your mass. So trying to get those quick, crafty angles when someone was with a flamethrower is going to absolutely decimate you can be quite frustrating sometimes. You can get stuck because it's hard to. It's kind of you constantly move in form, and once you have kind of a front to that form that is not always at the front, sometimes it's in the middle of your mass, or sometimes it can kind of bump heads with your stealth and stuff like that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely lose a lot of the precision with your movements when you get real big. But then you kind of get the shield ability and the pull ability that ends up turning you into kind of like a force, like an unstoppable force, where by the end of that game I was just kind of charging the big mech things and sticking all of my tentacles onto it and then yanking them apart and just kind of going at them. And that ended up being the strategy that I was using there, instead of like sneaking around and trying to pick off enemies one by one, because you can't really do that with some of the later enemies. You have to kind of attack them head on.
Did you like the flashback sections?
Yeah, I did. It was like a different kind of gameplay where you actually have these weird flashback. The monster has these flashbacks of a human, like a human first investigating the facility that they find this biohazard creature in or whatever it is. And it's a little bit of a departure from the other gameplay where you're actually controlling a person and you got to climb up ladders and open doors and stuff like that. I don't know. It didn't end up making a whole lot of sense to me, like who that person was.
No.
And I don't know if there was any actual real connection to the creature or not. But I like the end. I don't know if you got to the end.
No, I assumed
No.
he was the creature.
That's not. No, I don't think that. At least that's not what I got out of it.
All right. Okay.
But the end is pretty good. It ends in what I think to be a satisfying way. Yeah, it's only like a 4-hour game. It's not very long. And yeah, even then though some of that did wear out its welcome, like the having to redo the puzzles and stuff like that, kind of being repetitive. I think it looks good and it sounds good.
Yeah, it's got a like hyper pixel style, isn't it? It's like quite really defined pixel style.
Yeah, and it's
rather
like
than kind of blocky 8-bit.
The lighting is good. Like the lighting is very moody. And the sound effects and some of the music I thought was pretty good too.
Oh, it's gross especially when you're eating stuff.
Yeah, it's like bones are cracking and
yeah,
people are screaming like, oh, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, it's pretty good in that department.
Sort of like kind of an extension of The Thing, isn't it? Just
absorbing
everything.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, not quite as well. I guess near the end, I mean, you do get like a possession ability, but it's not quite as like you're not like mimicking other humans and stuff like that. You're literally just eating them.
Yeah.
All right.
It's definitely a devolved game.
Yes, yeah, it is. That's definitely one of their in their wheelhouse kind of games. All right. I think that's on everything. PC, Switch. I'm not 100% on PS4, but I think it's probably on there.
Yeah, it is.
Xbox, and it's on Game Pass, which is a good. It was on Game Pass at launch, so for a 4-hour game that doesn't really have too much replay value, that's a pretty good spot to play it.
Yeah.
So that's Carrion. My wayward son. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to see more. Check out voxelvoice.com for all of our great content, and consider supporting us on Patreon to keep our content ad-free and independent.